Hey project managers, welcome to our channel. In this video you'll learn how to kickstart planning and tracking a project using out-of-the-box Jira. I'll guide you through setting up a project management environment using this powerful tool, highlighting the pros and cons. Plus, I'll demonstrate a tool that extends Jira's capabilities, fills in the functionality gaps, and allows you to build a complete project and portfolio management environment. So stay tuned and let's get started. If you're new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss on any of our latest content. Now back to Jira. Jira started as an issue tracking tool. Over the years, it has evolved into a comprehensive project management solution. It's widely adopted across various industries, centralizing project tracking and management and enhancing team collaboration and communication. While it's popular among software development teams, it is also extensively used by marketing, HR, finance, and many other departments. Jira supports both agile and non-agile methodologies, making it a versatile tool for diverse project management needs. To install Jira, all you need to do is go to Atlassian's website and click Get Started. Once you enter your email, click to sign up and your Cloud Jira instance is ready. What's best is that it's free for up to 10 users. Now I've already created my instance, so I will skip this step. Once Jira is installed, it will open your project page. If you're just getting started, this will be empty. However, as you can see on my screen, I've already created a couple of different projects. So let's try to decode what we see on this screen. The first thing you'll see is that there are two types of projects: company managed and team managed. When creating your first project, you will need to decide which type of project you want to use. To create a project, go to the project dropdown and at the very bottom, you have the create project option. Now, if you are not a Jira administrator, you will not be able to create a company managed project, but we'll get to that in a minute. When you do that, you will see a list of project templates that are grouped by categories. For example, you have software development, and here you can pick between Kanban, Scrum, top-level planning, cross-team planning, and so on. Keep in mind that some of them are available with Jira Premium, which we'll not be covering in this video. Jira offers both Scrum and Kanban boards. Scrum is ideal for teams that prefer structured, sprint-based work cycles with defined roles and regular ceremonies. For example, a software team might use the Scrum board to plan and deliver features in 2-week sprints, holding stand-ups and sprint retrospectives once the sprint is completed. On the other hand, we have the Kanban boards. Kanban is suited for teams that need flexibility and continuous delivery. In that case, the team handling ongoing tasks such as bug fixes or minor updates might use Kanban to manage their workflow, focusing on limiting work in progress and optimizing the flow. Both methodologies have their strengths, and the choice between Scrum and Kanban depends on your team's workflow, project requirements, and preferred management style. I will be using the Scrum boards as it's more structured, and it allows you to create sprints and enables other features that are not available when using the Kanban board. Now, not all the templates that you see here allow you to create a company managed project, but these two, Kanban and Scrum, do allow you to do that. When you select the template, you will see that it has a pre-configured issue types. In my case, that would be epics, stories, bugs, tasks, and subtasks, and a basic workflow. We'll get to that also in the later part of the video. But what is important to mention here is that with company managed projects, you can customize almost every single aspect of your project. So that's definitely great. And let's use this template. The next choice is actually between team managed and company managed projects. While it is explained here, the main difference between these two is that company managed projects require a Jira administrator to create and control the project. As best practice, we recommend using company managed projects unless you have a small team and you don't expect it to grow over the upcoming years. Now let's create our company managed project. I will call it a GPS navigation app, and as you can see, Jira created a project key using the first letters of the name. Now best practice here is to create a project key that will be easily understood by your different team members, especially if you will be working with cross-project dependencies, and this way you will be able to quickly identify to which project the issues that you're working with belong. Let's hit next, and I can also connect my project with a Confluence page so that the project documentation is seamlessly integrated and accessible to all team members. Alright, so my Jira project and the related Scrum board are now created, and Jira redirected me to the active sprints screen. Now that would make sense if I've already started my sprint, but since we're starting from scratch, maybe it's a good moment to actually outline the Agile planning process, as it can be approached in different ways, but a combination of both top-down and bottom-up planning often works best. Now, when it comes to top-down planning, the Agile process begins with defining the overall goal and purpose of the project, known as the vision, and creating a high-level timeline that outlines major milestones and deliverables. So we do have a timeline view here. Let's have a look. And as you can see on this timeline, I can show my sprints, the releases, and the top level item is actually the epic. I won't be able to show my goals and milestones here, but we can work around it using a Confluence page. So I already created a GPS navigation app page using my Confluence when I can write down the project vision and goals. I can also gather the requirements to start building the scope, and I can have a high-level timeline or a roadmap of my project together with milestones and deadlines. Now this is great, however it would be even better if I could have most of this information in one place on my timeline in Jira. So let's start by creating a couple of epics. Now there are different ways to do that. You can do it using the timeline view, you can do it directly from the backlog. To do it you can click on the epic drop down here and show the epic panel. However, this will also open the create issue screen. So when you do that, select the epic issue type and enter the required fields such as the summary in my example. Keep in mind that while you can start building your backlog bottom up and you might already have some work items in your backlog, you will still need to connect them to a parent epic using the parent link. Otherwise, you will not be able to show the issue hierarchy on the timeline. So I do like the timeline view because it allows me to actually start creating child issues for that epic, and it creates the parent link for me. So let's create some epics, and the epics are large bodies of work that will be then decomposed into lower level items such as stories and tasks. So one example of the epic would be to create a user-friendly interface. So all I need to do is enter the short summary and hit enter, and as you can see my epic is already added. If I want to create a related issue, in that case a task or a user story, I can click on this create child issue plus button. An issue that is already indented will appear. I can select the issue types that are available in my project. So let's create a user story. For example, as a user I want a clear and intuitive home screen so that I can easily access the main features of the app. So let's hit enter, and as you can see my first story is added. So I will add some more stories and epics and I'll be right back. Alright, so I created some epics and related user stories for my GPS navigation app. Now I can click on one of these stories to open the detailed view, where I can edit the details, change the description, add attachments, create subtasks and link issue. What is great about this interface is that it actually allowed me to create the parent link automatically when I add child issues. So if you do it using the backlog view, for example, you will need to associate a story with the parent epic, or you can enable this epic panel, in which case you will need to just drop the issue on the epic to create the parent link. What is a user story? A quick reminder, a user story is a simple description of the feature or functionality from the perspective of the end user, and it captures what the user wants to achieve and why, and it should focus on the value it provides. So we know what are the stories, we started building our backlog. as we are now on the timeline, you probably noticed that issues don't appear on the timeline yet. Now there are different ways to do that depending on your planning process. Now if you plan your work in sprints, you don't really have to worry about the timeline because as soon as you create sprints, your issues will be added to the timeline automatically based on the sprint start and end dates. However, if you want to start adding items manually on the timeline, you will need to go to the configuration. To do that, click on this three-dotted button right here and configure timeline. As you can see here, I can enable or disable the timeline. It will disappear from the side panel. I can include child level issues or leave it with the top level items only. If I decide to include the child level issues for these items, I would need to decide whether I want to schedule by sprint dates or schedule by start and due dates. If you have the schedule by sprint dates option enabled, you will not be able to set the dates using the timeline view as they will be planned in the sprint. So that's another feature that I don't really like, as you have to choose between one or the other. It's not really flexible, does not work well in the hybrid approach when you have a mix of teams working in sprints and working on the timeline. But don't worry, I will show you a tool that eliminates this problem in the later part of the video. Now, speaking of teams, there is one thing that I haven't explained yet, and it's actually the team concept in Jira. Jira allows you to create teams, and a team is a group of users that collaborate on projects and tasks. Now, if you want to create a team, just click on the Create a Team option here, enter the team name and start inviting up to 50 people at once. You can add and remove team members at any time of your project lifecycle, so don't worry about it. Now I've already created a couple of teams. So I have my Cosmic creators here, and when I click on the team, I will be redirected to the team's profile where I can view team's activity, recent documents that the team was working on, and a list of issues. And this basically helps in keeping everyone updated and ensures transparency. Now there are other benefits of using the team field. For example, when a task is assigned to a team, it becomes a collective responsibility. So this ensures that the task is not dependent on a single person and can be picked up by any team member, promoting collaboration and flexibility. So I do recommend that you add this field to your issue screens if it's not available already. To do that, all you need to do is open one of your work items. Let's go to the backlog. Let's select an issue, and the team field will be in the More Fields section. So I can assign it to a team, but again, remember that you need to predefine the teams first. Alright, so let's close this for a while and we are back to our backlog. As you can see, I've already have a couple of stories. I haven't started my sprints yet. I have my epics with issues added to this epic. So I already see a basic report telling me about the status of issues in that epic. I haven't started, so 0% of estimated work was completed. Now let's start creating our sprints. So a sprint has its own backlog, and it's basically a set period during which specific work has to be completed. To add items to the sprint, all you need to do is to drag and drop from the backlog. So we are now creating the sprint backlog. Alternatively, I can just right click on it and move it to the created sprint. Now my first sprint is already created for me. If I want to create another sprint, I would suggest to set the start and end dates, or at least the start date of the first sprint and its duration. Typically, sprints have from 1 to 4 weeks. Let's set it to 2 weeks and start today. Alright, perfect. Now I can also add the sprint goal here, so that team stays focused on what they need to achieve in the defined period of time, and let's click update. Alright, so I have my first sprint created. If I want to create another one, Jira will remember the end date and the duration and will create another one starting on the end date of the previous sprint. So far so good. Now let's see what has actually happened to my timeline. Now if we look at the timeline, I will see that my sprint has appeared together with the epics and issues in that sprint. I can right click on the epic and change its color coding so it differentiates from the other epics, and you can use color coding in different ways. One way would be to assign specific colors to different epic categories. For example, red could be critical features that must be delivered, green for high priority features, blue medium priority, and so on and so forth. Or keep it simple and you can color code based on cross-functional tasks that require collaboration between teams and different team members. I've already seen my 2 sprints. I haven't planned a release yet. this will appear when I actually set the start and end dates of a fixed version. So maybe let's do it now. To create a version, I can go to the backlog and add my versions here. I can show them just like the epics in this panel. That would help me when adding issues to the version. Also, I can do it by going to releases and start creating versions. So let's create version 1 of our app, and let's say we want to release it by the end of next month. Alright, let's save. Now I see the status, it is not released. If I go to the timeline, I will see the release date of my version 1. So again, team is informed what they're aiming to achieve in the upcoming time period. Perfect. Now for other epics, I can actually just click on the timeline to add them. When I do that, Jira will set the start and the due date for me, and I can also create dependencies in case, for example, some of my items from the previous sprints or the whole epic itself is blocking the next epic on the list. Now when I move this issue and the epics overlap, the link will change color to red, indicating that there is a conflict and the previous one is blocking me. So that is something that I need to resolve. In my case, I would need to move it a little bit to the future. Now this is something that could be automated. For now, I'll have to resolve these conflicts manually, but at least it's showing me dependencies between the work items or work packages. Now how your timeline or your roadmap would look like really depends on your budget, on the available resources and plenty of other factors, but I think you get the idea what you can do using this tool. So let's leave it for now and go back to our sprint or our backlog so that we can start our sprint. So as mentioned earlier, the sprint backlog is the list of tasks or user stories that the team commits to completing during the sprint, and it's a subset of the product backlog. It is created during the sprint planning meetings, and during these meetings teams would estimate the effort required to complete a task. Now you can do it in different ways in Jira. For example, using story points or time estimates. Story points are a unit of measurement used in Agile methodologies to estimate the effort required to complete a specific task or a user story. And unlike time-based estimates, story points consider various factors such as complexity, risk, and the general amount of work involved. Now, when it comes to time units, they are more useful when you have fixed deadlines and need to plan the exact hours required to complete a task, but it also means that you really know what you are working on, so that can be as exact as possible. Now, also keep in mind that there is the hybrid approach in which some teams use a combination of both methods, story points for sprint planning and tracking velocity, and time estimates for detailed project planning and reporting to stakeholders. So this is something that you'll need to decide, but the good news is that you can actually do both. Alright, so let's add some estimates using story points. Let's say 3 story points for my story, and I will also add 5 hours using time track. Now I haven't logged any work yet. This is especially useful for reporting. Now as the team will be working on their stories and tasks, they can log their work using time tracking. Now time tracking operates using 3 different fields: the original estimate, or the effort required to complete a task, the remaining estimate, which is reduced automatically as soon as you start logging work. So for example, if I log 2 hours of work, you will see that the time remaining is reduced, and I will see this indication of the progress on the task level. So that's definitely great, and let me do that for the other story as well, so we can generate a velocity report once the sprint is completed. Alright, so I can see all this information in my sprint backlog. However, I did omit one important aspect, and that would be the actual workflow. So the workflow represents the process that the issues follow from creation to completion, helping teams track and manage their work efficiently. Now I'm using the simplified workflow, and I can edit it and modify it slightly. And if you want to make small adjustments, you can do it from the active sprint view. So as you can see here, I do have my to-do, in progress, and done status. And for example, I can add the review status. So when I added, it actually did modify my workflow. Now if I go back to my issue, you will see that a new status was added. Now I can create more complicated workflows, But to do that, I would need to be a Jira administrator. Let's see how we can do it. Just go to the configuration or settings of your Jira, go to issues and select workflows. Now, you will not be able to edit the workflows that are already in use. You can edit a new one, you can also import it from the marketplace, but for this video I will only show you what are the main features of the workflow, and if you want to learn more, drop us a comment and we will record a new video explaining all these features in more details, as they can actually help a lot in automating your work in Jira. So this is an example of a workflow a little bit more complicated, where I have all the different transitions already set. Now what's great about transitions is that you can, for example, restrict who can move an issue to this particular status. You can perform additional actions such as update an issue field. For example, when I resolve an issue, I would like to update the remaining estimate to 0 since I've already completed working on it, or automatically assign an issue once it is moved for review or for testing to the QA team. Alright, so I think we're ready to kick off our sprint. Let's hit the start sprint button, set the duration, although I think I've already set it to 2 weeks, and hit start. Once the sprint starts, tracking progress is essential to ensure that the team stays on track and can address any issues promptly. So during the daily stand-up meetings, team members will discuss their progress and any obstacles they are facing and plan for the day. This helps identifying issues early and keep everyone informed. As they update the issue status, the sprint board will be updated to reflect the current status of tasks, and the tasks will be moved from different columns from to do, in progress, to done as the work progresses. Now I can rearrange this board and focus on a specific team member as an example, so team members can understand what others are working on and what might require their attention. I can also rearrange it by projects or by epic to have an overview of how my epics and projects are progressing. Now there are some other views here that will help you in tracking your project. For example, you have a report for each of the epics, and also if you open the epic, so let's click on the key here, you will see a basic status report for all of its children items, and that's definitely great. You can also switch to different views, such as the list view, where you see epics with the related child tasks, for example my story, and related subtasks, their status, print that they are assigned, and it's all inline editable, so you can, for example, assign work to users or to previously mentioned teams, and visualize the progress of your work using some basic charts. For example, I want to see how my overall project is progressing using the status-based report, so I'll see how many issues I have in to do, in progress, and done categories. I can also see how work is distributed across my team members or the assignees, or what are the issues, what type of work items I have on my board. Now there are more advanced reports which we will not be covering in this video. If you're interested in learning more about Jira's reporting capabilities, drop us a comment. However, what I will do is actually expand the scope of my board to include some other projects. To do that, you will need to go to the board settings, change the filter used to define which issues or which projects are shown on that board. So let's go to configure a board and the general page. Now, as you can see here, I do have a filter that pulls in data from one particular project. So let's edit this filter and add 2 more projects so that we can see how that will affect our board. I will need to save this filter, so let's save changes and we can go back to our board. If I go to the backlog, I will see a list of all epics in all the projects I've added to the board. Same applies to the sprints, as I have other teams that work on other projects, and this way I created a master board that combines all the other boards that my teams have created. Unfortunately, when I switch to the timeline view, I won't be able to see anything, and if you want to see a timeline of multiple projects, then you will need to purchase Jira Premium. Now, before you consider purchasing Jira Premium, you might want to explore other apps available on the Atlassian's marketplace that not only address the gaps we have identified to date, but also offer more capabilities at a better price. One such application is BigPicture. It is an advanced tool for project and portfolio management that goes far beyond what out-of-the-box Jira offers. There are plenty of other project management tools that differ in functionality, so analyzing them can take quite some time. If you need help choosing a tool that will support the current and future needs of your organization, feel free to contact us and we will gladly share our experience with over 200 clients. Also on our channel you will find dozens of videos that address various use cases so that you can start the research yourself. As for BigPicture, I will not get into much details here, but we will focus on the limitations of Jira, which I discussed in this video. BigPicture allows you to build and manage complex portfolio structures, aggregate data from different levels, and generate consistent reports. So you will have all the information from as many projects in Jira as you need in a single place. It also offers powerful Gantt charts and agile timelines to plan and manage your tasks, which include lots of automations, so you won't have to worry about manually adjusting your timeline when you receive a change request that will actually have an impact on multiple schedules. More than that, you can try out different scenarios and find the one that works for you best. It is compliant with Scaled Agile framework and helps in planning sprints, PIs, and create agile release trains. You can have full control of your agile backlog and track progress in real time. It also does not have any limitations when it comes to building task hierarchies, so you can easily create levels above the epic level, such as your initiatives, long and short-term goals, and present it on a single timeline. It can visualize all the different dependencies that you have created in your Jira, auto-schedule based on the defined relations between tasks, teams, and resources, making it easier to plan and execute projects. It also includes tools such as the risk matrix, where you can define risk and threats and balance their probability and severity. It helps in coordinating resources, distributing workloads, and preventing burnout by managing people, teams, and skills. On top of that, you can also generate detailed reports on tasks, dependencies, risks, and many more, which can be exported to different file formats and used as source data for other systems your organization is using. So if you want to learn more about how to start your first project using BigPicture, make sure to watch the BigPicture for Beginners comprehensive starter guide video on our channel. So that's it for today's video. I hope that you now know how you can kickstart your planning and tracking your project in Jira. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.